Hey, happy Sunday, everybody. I am so glad that you're tuned in with us today. If we've not had the opportunity to meet, my name is Wes Young. And if you're fairly new to North Point, or maybe this is your first time tuning in, I want to let you know right up front, I'm not the normal guy that communicates the message up here on Sunday. In fact, I'm not on staff with the church. I'm actually a volunteer. And I volunteer in the stewardship committee. We kind of guide and direct the thinking of the financial side of the church, and as well as sometimes you'll see me up here on Sunday helping out with the hosting, so welcoming you and kind of kicking off the service. And every now and then, when Buck needs to go on vacation and they can find absolutely nobody else, I'm your guy. You get me. So I'm happy to be with you here this Sunday. Let me tell you a little bit about me and my family, a little background. So this is my family. My beautiful wife, Jamie, and our two kids, Gage and Abby. And, it's interesting. My son just turned 16, and he's now driving out there, which dramatically reduces Jamie's Uber abilities that she has to employ every single week with our two kids and all their activities. So that's helped out a lot. My daughter, Abby, and I are actually in a competition right now. And this is where I could really use your help, because she is really, really good on Instagram, as most 14-year-old girls are. And I am really, really bad on it, as most 42-year-old men are. And so we were talking one day, and she's kind of making fun of me a little bit and saying, "Oh, Dad, you got 6 posts. I mean, come on, you could do better than that." And I said, "Hey, I'll bet if I really put my mind to it, I could get more followers than you." Now, she's wanted to take that bet from the very start, jumped all over it, attached a monetary figure to it. And I said, I should have looked into how many followers she had prior to making this bet, because she has a lot. But she may be good at it, and she may have far more followers, but here's my advantage. I have a microphone today. And so all you dads out there and moms that want to help me out, follow me, Austin Wes Young, and we can beat Abby's Instagram follower number. Having a little fun there. So my wife and I, we own a financial planning company, and I spend most of my professional life doing that. Now, I've written a couple books on the topic, and I get invited quite a bit to speak at various conferences that are mostly in my industry and kind of in my lane in this topic. And years ago, when I was getting to know Buck and we were getting plugged in here at North Point, I was in Buck's office, and he started talking about just the things he normally talks about, deep questions. And Buck, if you've ever been around him or observed him, he asks great questions. I mean, things that really make you think. And I remember I was in there, and he said, "Wes, do you believe in free speech?" And I thought to myself, well, yeah, Buck, I believe in free speech. And he said, "That's great. How would you like to start giving them at North Point a couple times a year?" And so here we are today, and I am thrilled to be with you. Jamie and I are so happy to be a part of North Point's community of people. We just love doing life with you guys. And I am super excited about today's message and the whole series we've been in here. It's called "You're Not the Boss of Me." You're not the boss of me. And Buck kicked this off a few weeks back, and he's really done a great job setting it all up. But I love the tagline for this whole series. And the tagline is this: how to say no to the voices or the emotions that compete for control. How to say no to the emotions that compete for control. Because here's the deal. All of us want to live a great life. All of us want to live a great future and live the best we possibly can. The issue that can derail all of that is we have these negative voices, negative emotions that have the capacity to well up inside of us and affect the way we think, and affect the way we ultimately see the world, and affect the way we actually act, which can lead us, if we're not careful, to a bunch of avoidable regrets. And there is enough unavoidable regret in our world to why would we want to possibly live with a bunch of avoidable regrets? And so that's why we're talking about this here today. In fact, you don't have to go any further than just your own history, right, to understand this. Man, if you're like me, maybe your recent history, because in my life and in your life, we look back and we look at this circumstance or an outcome that occurred, and that outcome is one of those things, if we could erase from the story of our life, we would love to, and it has to do with what did we say, what did we do that led us to that point. And many, many times, what we said and what we did is a result of what was in us already. And what was in us were these voices or these emotions that are toxic, that compete for control, that have the capacity to make us live with avoidable regrets. And here's the thing. While we can't go back, as my friend Rod Brigman says, and make a new past, my friend, we can start today and make a brand new end. And so that's why we've been talking about this, and we're going to keep talking about it for the next several weeks, how to say no to the emotions and the voices that compete for control. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to set this up. Last week we talked about the emotion of fear, and Buck did a great job unpacking that. This week, I'm going to talk about an emotion that I believe is one of the scariest in all of us. I think, in fact, it's one of the sneakiest in all of us, because it has the potential to grab a hold of something that naturally and normally is in us that is very, very good. In fact, I believe it's one of the most beautiful things about our life. And it takes hold of it and it just rots it. It just makes it terrible. It derails some of our best future opportunities. And I don't want that for you, and I don't want that for me, and nobody wants that for our kids, so we need to talk about this stuff. Now, before I give you the emotion, I want to take you a few places. I want to take you to some spots where I can really build the context around this idea so that you can get a color that's maybe unique if I just gave you the word up front, because I like to paint a little picture. So it feels like I might be taking a right turn here. I'm not. I promise you we're going somewhere with this. So let me ask you a question. If you were all in the auditorium here today, I would ask you to raise your hands. I'm asking you to be involved and engaged at home right now. If you would lift up your hand to the answer to this question, how many of you, in light of the shelter in place that we've all been experiencing together over the many, many months that this COVID-19 has been going on, how many of you are like Jamie and I, and your garage has never been cleaner than it is before, right? It's never been more organized than it has before. Maybe your closet has never been neater and more arranged and cleaner than it's ever been before. Sometimes your spice rack, if you're a spice rack person, you've thrown out all the old. I mean, it's nothing but the new and the good, and they're all categorized and alphabetized. Maybe for you, it's maybe a cupboard. Maybe it's your pot and pan rack. Whatever it is, when you're sitting at home, and you can't go anywhere to go, nowhere to be, you're like, I guess I should do something about that, right? And that's what Jamie and I did, and it was fascinating to me. And I'll bet you can identify with this, because as we began to look at all these different messes we had in our house that had piled up that we wanted to make clean and organized, we started finding stuff. I mean, it was amazing the purging that went on. We found stuff we forgot we had. We found stuff we had two of that we forgot we had. Stuff I didn't know what it was. Some stuff that was still in the package. Can you identify with that? I mean, it was hilarious. We were kind of laughing at ourselves, and because you couldn't cry, but we had all this stuff that was cluttering up that even if we knew it was there, we couldn't have found it anyway before this purging. So we take all this stuff and we start giving it away. Some of it you had to throw away. Some stuff we donated to people. And so as we're doing this purging, here was the amazing part. And this is the part that just makes me crack up about myself and just about most people. I pulled back into my driveway having dumped off a nice load of stuff that I didn't use anymore or didn't want anymore. And to replace it, right there, beautifully wrapped in an Amazon package, was a bunch of new stuff. And if you're like me, you might have experienced the same thing during this, because when I wasn't cleaning out a closet, I was on Amazon buying stuff, and it just cracks me up. It's like, what is that causes me to take these things and I get rid of them because I wasn't using them anymore? At some point, I guess I wanted them. And then I replace it with brand new stuff. It's just a crazy thing. And so here's what it got me thinking about. It got me really kind of blaming a little bit, if I'm honest. I was like, you know whose fault this is? This is my kid's fault, number one. I really do. I think it's my kid's fault or Jamie's fault. And then they kind of quickly shut that down because most of the packages were for me. And I'm like, well, okay, I can buy it's not their fault. But you know whose fault it is? It's Amazon's. It's Amazon's fault, because if you've been in there, I mean, they've got cool stuff. Isn't it cool? They've got such cool stuff. In fact, even if you legit go in there to look for something, there's 5 more things that you didn't even know existed. But by the time you're done, you can't live without, and your basket is just full of 10 items instead of 1. And in fact, they cheat a little bit because they listen to you all day. So things I'm thinking about, they're like, Wes would like this, and it's in there. And I'm like, I would like that. Thank you, Amazon, for that help. So I really thought, it's really Amazon's fault that we have this cycle of I need more to replace what I just got rid of. But I'm an adult, right? And you're an adult, and we kind of reason out to ourselves, is it really Amazon's fault? Well, no, not totally. In fact, I came to the conclusion the square blame is probably on all of you. If I'm honest, I mean, I got to tell you, I'm just being honest with you here today. I would say this if you were physically in the same room with me. It's your fault. Because we're on all these little apps together, if you've seen these, Facebook, and we got Instagram, it's because you're going to Instagram follow me. Remember, we got to beat Abby. And you have such cool lives and so many fascinating things about your life and the things you wear and the things you have, and you seem to enjoy them so much. Even if it's things I have, you enjoy them much more than I do. And I'm like, I need that, or a newer version of that, or a bigger one of those. And so then what do? I go over to Amazon. And I buy that, and then I buy the 5 more things. And you take vacations. Oh, my gosh, your vacations. You look like you're having a fantastic time. And I want to go to those places so I can do the same thing because I'm feeling very discontent. And in fact, your families look picture perfect together. Sometimes your family vacation pictures are amazing. And you've been to places I've been. But at the end of the day, you seem to be having a whole lot better time. And so it's just this endless cycle of I've got to fix this by going and ordering and getting online. And at the end of the day, it's not just your fault or just Amazon's fault. I actually think it's Buck's fault. In fact, before we started this series, You're Not the Boss of Me, did you know I didn't have any desire to buy a motorcycle? I really didn't. Yet every week, Buck's been up here, he's been pointing to this. And he makes it sound so cool. This Harley, and I'm thinking, I need that, right? In fact, I go to Jamie, and I'm like, Jamie, look, we should get one of those. And she's like, no, we shouldn't. And I'm like, oh, but my life's incomplete. Buck is making me feel so dissatisfied with my lame life because I don't have one of these. And it just builds. In fact, hashtag for sale, right? That's one of the things we always talk about. If you want to sell something, just put it up here on stage as a prop. And it is for sale, and it makes me think, because we're talking about it in church, it must be a sign from God, right? I need one of these. And it's kind of funny, it's really not, of course, Buck's fault, and it's really not your fault, and it's really not Amazon's fault. It's really my fault, and it's my fault, and it's your fault when you allow these kind of things to compete, the emotions that compete for control in all of our lives. And the emotion that competes here is this comparison issue, that there's no win in comparison. And the way I like to add it in language is it's all about this. It's all about envy. Envy. And for the sake of our discussion today, in the context that we're going to be exploring this emotion that competes for control, that has the potential to cause us to live with a bunch of avoidable regrets, I want us to think about it like this. Envy is a feeling of arrogance, discontentment, or greed towards something or someone. It's a feeling of arrogance, discontentment, or greed towards something or someone. It has you competing with people that don't even know there's a competition. And it either makes you arrogant because you feel like you're winning, or it makes you dissatisfied with life because you feel like you're losing. Or it makes you so hungry for the next thing that's out there, just I've got to go to more, that you can't even enjoy where you're at. It's a nasty, nasty emotion. We're going to explore this a bit together. In fact, one of the things that one of the wisest men to ever live said, that we're going to explore more of him today, if you're not familiar with him, his name's King Solomon. He said this, he said, envy rots the bones. Envy rots the bones. And you know what? I think that it really does, because I think envy takes something really, really good that is a gift from God, that actually is one of the best parts of your life. Just like your bones. Your bones are a great part of you. And your bones are a great thing in their natural and normal state. But rotten bones, you can look kind of good on the outside, and it just rots you from the inside. And I believe that's exactly what envy has the capacity to do. It's an emotion, it's a voice that competes for control in our hearts, that ultimately affects one of our greatest things, our greatest gifts that we use to navigate life. So what I want to do with you is spend a little bit of time, help you understand the good thing that envy has a way of sliding into and attaching and making it a really rotten thing. And it's this, the gap. The gap. All of us have a gap. We have a gap between where we are and where we want to be, between what we see today and what could be tomorrow. And the gap is one of those beautiful gifts, because you and I, here's the thing, you were designed, and I was designed, to make things better. To make today better than yesterday and tomorrow better than it is today. And it's one of the most exciting things about being a person, and I believe it comes from our Heavenly Father. In fact, this is where progress comes from. This is where faith lives. One of the incredible writers of Hebrews said, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things that we've not yet seen. But here's the thing you got to understand about the gap. You and I are going to run out of time and money before we run out of all the ideas and opportunities we could go pursue. We will. All of us are going to do it. In fact, because your gap, it never goes away. It just moves. It just continues to repurpose and recondition itself because you were built for better and I was built for better. And that's a really good thing. But you have to understand that there is no end to better. And I think this is a really important thing to get your arms around and really think it through. In fact, let me give you a couple of examples. Think back with me to your first job. Okay, I don't know what yours was. Mine was at a Blockbuster Video. No kidding. Blockbuster Video, my job at 15 years old was to put the tapes back on the shelf. I made $4.25 an hour. That happened to be the minimum wage at the time. And I remember thinking to myself, when I make another $1 an hour, I'm going to be rich. I thought, I'm going to have all this extra money. And I remember I'd look at people that were a couple income levels above me, and I'd think, how do those people have financial problems? I mean, they ought to be throwing a party that makes so much more money than I do. And the funny thing is, the reason I thought that way is because I had a 15-year-old gap. This is a thing that's not just a 15-year-old thing, okay? This is a thing that is a very successful person, has accomplished a lot, way down the road thing. Because I have many clients, and I have one in particular, we were discussing this idea when he was in his early 80s. And he'd already accomplished a ton of stuff, more than most people will accomplish. I mean, lived a really successful business life as well. And I remember I said, hey, do you think the gap ever goes away? And he looked back at me and he said, well, Wes, let me explain it to you like this. See this little jet? And he has this little model jet that sits on his desk, which, by the way, is a model of the actual jet that he owns that sits in the hangar. Because when you're real rich, you don't only have the toy, you got the real thing to go with it. And so we're sitting there, and he said, I see this jet. I remember when as big as I could think, I thought, how great would a better life be if we could get to the point where we could do this, we could buy this responsibly. He said, you know what? We did, and we got it, and I'm grateful for it. But now, the one I really want, and he flips his computer screen around, and there's one that costs about twice as much as that one. And he just laughed. He said, you know what, Wes? He said, it's not that I'm not grateful for what I have and happy, but it doesn't quench the fire in me to think about taking it up a notch. And here's where this can get dangerous, and here's where we can begin to get envy a foothold in this beautiful thing that we've been given of the gap. It's very, very difficult in the busyness of life to live as if we are going to run out of time and money before we run out of ideas and opportunities. And you and I, for the rest of our lives, will be in this gap. And if we're honest with ourselves, we get that, but it's really, really tough. And you know this, you feel this tension right now. To live is at that street because we are so right to the edge, trying to get as much done as fast as we can if possible. And this is where envy sticks its toe in. Because in our effort to get the most out of life, we begin to lose control of the best parts of our life. And here's what I mean by that. Envy then begins to set in and have this ability to say, the answer to better is more. The more opportunities that I can get, the better. The more money I can get, the better. And I'm not against having more money, but I'm saying there's no end to this desire. We run fast, we work hard, and we're so busy trying to get to the next level of better, we don't even enjoy where we're at. But then it can get worse because envy then will say, well, yeah, you want to be better in the future. You're looking for a better future. But then it takes it to you want a better future. You want to be better than her. Or you want to be better than him. Or you want your family to be better than their family. Or your financial situation. Or your current station in your professional life. Or your vacation. Or whatever it might be. But it begins this comparison. And here's the problem with that is it's very short-sighted because you either feel arrogant because you feel like you're winning, or you feel dissatisfied because you know you're not. Either way, it's ugly. In fact, the thing about envy is you don't even have to get better personally to sometimes feel a little moment of satisfaction because as long as their situation gets a little worse, you're good with that. And what is that in us? That's an ugly, ugly thing, and that is envy. But it doesn't have to be that way. What we need to do is really unearth this. And to finish this, what I want to do, I want to go to the words of King Solomon. And I told you earlier on, we spoke about King Solomon. King Solomon, for those of you who don't know his background, he was one of the wealthiest people to ever live. And He had done a lot of good works, a lot of great things, accomplished more in his lifetime than most people ever accomplish, and he wrote about it. So let's take a look at what Solomon had to say about envy. I saw that all toil and achievement spring from one person's envy of another. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. This was going on 3,000 years ago. Everybody's competing with everybody else. I feel good about me as long as I'm better than you. They took this beautiful gift of the gap, and they find themselves in this place where they are running and working, and they are running and working and running and working, and they're never finding the complete satisfaction. They're chasing the wind. They're trying to feel better about themselves by looking at everybody else around them, by saying, I'm either arrogant momentarily because I look a little better than you, but the problem with that, it never lasts. Because there's always another out there. Someone's prettier, someone's more successful, those things. You're always in this constant push for being better. And so momentary arrogance that's immediately followed by dissatisfaction, or you're so enthralled in getting to all the next things and as much as I can that you end up being in this place in life where you're not even enjoying where you are. He said it's meaningless, chasing the wind. And then he goes on to say this. I saw that all toil, all achievement, spring from one person's envy of another. This too is meaningless and a chasing after the wind. And then the piece, it feels like he almost takes a right turn here. He says, fools fold their hands and ruin themselves. And you're like, wait a minute, Solomon. So you just told me, don't chase the wind. Don't be pursuing something just for the sake of pursuing it or being better than them or better than him or better than her. And then you say, but fools don't do anything. Fools fold their hands and ruin themselves. Now, with that, some of the things to think about here there are two extremes almost going on. One that's like, since I can't do it, I won't do anything. But that's not what we were meant for, because we were meant to live in this gap and make things better. But he's saying, don't make it better the way they're making it better, with envy at the root of it. So here's where he brings these two ideas together. Better one handful with tranquility than two handfuls with toil and a chasing after the wind. Better one handful with tranquility than two handfuls and where there's toil and there's chasing after the wind. So here's what he says. He says, hey, you want a handful. You want to make things better. That thing is in you and it should stay in you. Look for the opportunity to make life better for people, not better than people. So have that one handful, but in that handful, you need a hand open to appreciate what you've got going on today, to appreciate what you have right now, because oftentimes the doorway to a better future is by cultivating what's in your hands, in your present. And every day, you and I have this opportunity to have these two things at work, but we got to keep it in the front side of our mind. Solomon's saying, look, one handful with peace, that's what that word tranquility just means, peace, is way better than two handfuls with a bunch of anxiety, a bunch of fear, and a bunch of envy at the middle of something that was supposed to be a gift and really, really good. In fact, you all know this because you could go buy it, right? You got one handful, but you could take the other handful and go buy that. But what are you trading? Are you trading that now you're going to have to come home later? Are you trading the fact that now you're going to have less security in the future to take care of some of the what-if circumstances of life? And now you're living with more anxiety, but you bought it or you leased it, right? Or you went there, and it's nothing bad about going and buying and leasing and doing. What's bad is when both hands are involved, because it doesn't give you a hand to hold your peace. You might have heard someone say that, hey, hold your peace. When both your hands are full with toil and chasing after the wind, you don't have a hand free to hold your peace and enjoy where you are on your way to where you're going. And then Solomon then takes this deeper with a very specific example. It says this, again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man all alone, and he had neither son nor brother. Now, what this means, in this culture, he says this because women could not inherit property. So what he's saying here is, look, there was a guy, he was all alone, and he had nobody to inherit all the stuff that he had. And then he makes this statement, which I think is just so fascinating and speaks so much to what we've been talking about today. There was no end to his toil, yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. He had two handfuls, right? He is going and doing, and in his effort to get the most out of life, he didn't even enjoy where he was. He didn't even enjoy what he had. And then he does something. And I think maybe this is maybe the reason you're tuned in today to hear this, because this is something, if we could ask ourselves these questions, I think we would regularly get the opportunity to remove envy from our lives and make this good thing even better rather than having a bad thing and rot our opportunity to navigate our gap. He asked himself this question. He says, "For whom am I toiling? And why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless and a miserable business." But you already know that, right? And when you ask yourself that question in your real honest moments and you bump up against the answers to this question, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I so grasping forward for the future with both hands that I'm not even enjoying my family today? I'm not even enjoying where we are at right now. Why am I always competing with her? Am I doing it because I want to be better or better than her or better than him? Some of you may be competing with someone who's not even alive anymore because you're trying to prove that you can do it or you're trying to prove that you can be better than them. And that's one of those things that just rots the bones. And what he's saying here is to ask yourself these questions helps you understand that trying to outrun your gap by getting more with both hands or trying to compete your way out of the gap by being better than her, better than him, better than it, it's meaningless. It's a chasing after the wind. Now, Solomon, if we go back to one of the initial scriptures I pointed out that he wrote in Proverbs, there's an additional piece to envy rots the bones. It comes before that. It says, "A heart of peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones." And I love this because it is a window into what we all deal with every day, that there is this capacity in all of us to want to make life better, and that's a good thing. And we also should be able, if we do this right, and we are at peace, which is the goal here, be at peace where we are on our way to where we're going. It can give life to the gap. Envy will come in and rot the gap, just like your bones. It is a chasing after the wind, and you cannot win chasing the wind. So here's the deal. What do we do about it all? Right? It's like, I get it, Wes. I feel this tension every day, but what do we actually do about it so that we can make the rest of our life the best of our life? Well, I think there's some real simple things that I've seen be so useful to so many people and been useful in my life when I'm reminded of it and can practice it regularly. And the first thing is this, is embrace your gap. Embrace the gap. God has given you a race to run. Run your race there. Understand that never in your life are you going to get to the other side of your gap. You were never meant to, because it's one of the most joyous things in life. Be excited about where you are on your way to where you're going. Be happy and grateful for where you are on your way to where you're going. And if you understand, I will be in this gap forever, you're going to be a lot more apt to enjoy the process in the middle, because guess what? You're always going to be in the middle. You'll hit one mountaintop and there's another one over there, and you know what? You should go after it. Again, but at the same time, taking it all in, enjoying the moment that you're in while you strive forward to be even better in the future. And there's some things you got to recognize, okay? And here's just, again, one piece that if you don't do this, it's going to be really tough to enjoy your gap, is this. Look to others for inspiration, not imitation. So read biographies. Look to other people who are got it together in many areas of their life and use that as a motivation. Say, you know what, that is awesome. I'm inspired by that. I want to go do that. But don't try and become someone you're not. And don't compete with someone you're not. Celebrate when you can't participate. Write them that letter. Congratulate them on what they're doing. Tell them you're inspired by it. Don't compete with it. Don't let envy have a foothold there. You're not about being better than them. You're about being better. Also, I love this statement. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Because we've all got people that are just further ahead in their journeys in life. And one of the things about you and one of the things about me is if we're not careful, we'll try and be in competition with them when they don't even know there's competition. That's where envy gets that foothold. But take yourself. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. And the third thing I would say in this navigation of the gap well, to embrace it well, is this. Count your blessings, not your neighbor's blessings. I love this. Counting your blessings. You ever done that? You ever taken the time to just sit back and and be grateful for all the good things you have going on in your life? Because you do. In fact, many of you in your life right now, you have something in your life right now that you once prayed for. You once hoped for. In fact, what you prayed for may be sitting on the couch next to you. What you prayed for may be running around behind you screaming as you're watching this message, and you're going, quick, keep quiet, like we do. I mean, we all have things in our life that we prayed for, and we got them, but do we regularly take time to be thankful for them? Thanking God for your spouse, thanking God for the opportunity to be alive, be healthy and watching this message, be getting healthier, thanking God for the opportunity to go into work, or thanking God for the opportunity to be able to look for new work in some cases, right? There's all these things. Just taking time to count your blessings and not your neighbors. There's a great song, and I would encourage you, I'm not going to sing it for you. I am going to give you some of the core lyrics, but it is a song that's a great reminder of this, and it's about a young girl who grows up to be a woman and goes through these different phases of life, different seasons of life. You know, from a little girl to gosh, I really want to get out and on my own, to then the next stage of life is now I'm on my own in an apartment. I can't wait till I get in a house and have kids. And then she's in the house with kids and the water heater's broken and the plumber's fixing it. And she's like, oh, I got to get to the next stage of life. And it is this kind of idea of we want to continue to evolve. And listen, I want my kids to evolve to where they're no longer in the house. Kids, if you're watching this, I want that. But I don't want to do that at the sacrifice of enjoying the moment that I'm in today, of counting my blessings and all the things that are around me today. And the lyrics of this song, I'm going to put them up here and just kind of walk you through them because it's just amazing. And you can download them today just right now as you're sitting in your chair if you'd like, or this. It's a Trace Atkins song called You're Going to Miss This. It says, you're going to miss this. You're going to want this back. You're going to wish these days had not gone by so fast. These are some good times. So take a good look around. You may not know it now, but you're going to miss this. What in your life right now are you going to miss? I don't want you to get 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road and have avoidable regrets. And one of the beautiful things about our gap is in a healthy way, not only are we reaching for a better future, you should evolve, you should move forward, but you have the capacity to be grateful for where you are and appreciative of today. It's what makes life worth living. So my bottom line here is this. When tempted to compare, stop and declare, envy, you're not the boss of me. I will not chase the wind, because there is no wind in chasing the wind. In fact, Jesus followers, you already have a boss. And he's made it crystal clear what you're to do. Don't compare yourself to one another. Love one another. You know, when love is present in your gap between where you are and where you want to be, you can't help but be for a better future that is for people, not a future that is better than another person. When love is present in there, it lets you be at peace and also have a ravenous persistence. It lets you be humble and hungry. Love gives you a capacity to live an incredible gap, enjoy where you are, on your way to where you're going, because that is exactly what your Heavenly Father invites you into with Him, to live this gap with Him, not for Him, with Him. He wants to walk alongside of you. And if you do that, your rest of your life will be the best of your life. Let me pray for us before I let you go. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity just to come together and think about this stuff, Father. We are so grateful you've given us the gap, Lord, the opportunity to see and vision in a future. And you invite us to live by faith, to see things that are not yet there and move towards them, Father. And you also, in that beautiful gap, give us the capacity to enjoy where we are. Father, I just pray for everybody watching today that Lord, you would give them a special touch, that they would feel your presence, that you want to walk with them, that they would be people who look to make things better for people, not than people, Lord. That they would continue to develop their thinking, develop their lives, while all the time just enjoying right where they are, the good things about where they are on the way to where they're going. And I pray your favor upon them, Father. And I ask all this in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you.